Not every day a guy gets to interview the love interest of his best friend's wife and the guy trying to replace Ryan as a husband and me as his best mate. I've never done an interview before, but I've done a lot of things, like crazy things in Australia. You do understand you can't even get into preschool unless you take a person's life with your own bare hands. Twice.
Totally.
What the hell are you doing messing with my best buddy's wife?
Sir, I have no idea what's happening at all today.
I was expecting not to like him.
Oh, yeah.
But he is so nice.
The nicest guy.
Friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. I found something that might be a bombshell, maybe not. You've probably already heard this, but there's some new developments because last week, in court, there was that whole meeting with the judge and all the different parties talking about this protective order. And Blake Lively's attorney and the PR sides were all really trying to hone in that they need to protect third parties. And it all came down to like all of their celebrity friends. And Lively's attorneys admitted that in their request for discovery from Baldoni and Wayfarer, they had listed off more than 24 names of people and they classified them as high profile. So famous celebrity friends that they've had worked with and had conversations with that they believed would have information about everything that transpired. And Blake's side was like terrified that these people getting involved in this could cause their careers to be damaged as well. And so they want this like protective order. That's not what this video is about. But there's a new report now via the Daily Mail that Hugh Jackman is going to get brought into this dispute. And that shouldn't really surprise anyone because Hugh participated in the cross promotion of Deadpool and Wolverine along with It Ends With Us. And he interviewed Brandon, who is Atlas in the film, which was really awkward because if you actually watched the movie, they falsely portray Atlas or Brandon's character as the love interest. And he and Blake in the film were not love interests. They were friends. There was no relationship between them during the film. There was no kissing. They had no intimate scenes whatsoever. The most they ever did was hug. And it wasn't even a love triangle, really. He was an old boyfriend from when she was in high school. He was an important character, but he was not her main love interest. Her main love interest in the show was Justin Baldoni. And when I saw this promotional film, I was like, why are you calling him the love interest? This is so weird. And then Hugh showed up on the red carpet and he was helping to promote the film by being on the red carpet for It Ends With Us. So now there's a new article basically saying that Hugh is going to be deposed and likely will have to turn over discovery as well. And I'll get to that in a second. But I noticed something because anytime I'm going through one of these investigations, I always want to make sure that I'm not getting too narrow in my focus. I want to make sure that I'm staying focused and not getting caught up in conspiracies or trying to like be so biased that I'm missing things, right? So I don't want to automatically assume that Justin is innocent. I have to try to like make sure that I stay grounded, right? But I found the amended complaint or the first complaint that was filed in this case, which was the first one that Justin filed against Blake right after she filed against him. And the first complaint is vastly different than the second complaint. And they took out a lot of the information that was in it, probably for a reason. But I found a part in here that filled in some blanks for me that I hadn't previously seen. And it was threats that were being made to them that they're alleging were made to them, obviously. What it sounds like is that just after the film was released, Stephanie Jones, their publicist at the time, who had basically abandoned them, had been losing all kinds of different clients. And as she was losing all of these clients, like big name clients, like Chris Helmsworth and Dwayne The Rock Johnson, huge names. And as she was losing all these people, she suddenly like reinserted herself in the Wayfair situation. She created a whole mess. And she got into a fight with Jen Abel, who was the account contact for Stephanie's company. So basically, Jen worked for Stephanie under Jones Works, and Jen was the publicist that represented Wayfair for Jones Works. Okay. But Abel was leaving the company. And so Stephanie Jones was upset when she found out that Jen was leaving and started making all these crazy accusations against Jen. And she basically gives all of the evidence to Blake because she's mad at Jen and she's mad at Justin. Okay. That's their allegation. And there's a paragraph that says, after Wayfair made the decision to cut off Stephanie, it says, for Wayfair and Baldoni, the decision was straightforward. As soon as Abel was out of Jones' work, Wayfair was out too. This was not about Abel poaching Wayfair or Baldoni, nor it was a part of a premeditated plan to cut out Jones' work. But Abel was a trusted, loyal, and committed member of the team. Wherever she went, Wayfair and Baldoni would follow. On the other hand, Jones was a walking disaster whose self-absorption, disloyalty, and insubordination had been a significant headache. And then it says, rather than accepting the end of the relationship with professionalism and decorum, Jones started threatening to sue and demanding exorbitant payment for work not done and protesting that she had done an amazing job. But Wayfair and Baldoni had already made the decision to part ways with Jones Works, and their decisions was final. So when they decided to leave Stephanie, she threatens to sue them, tells them basically like, you're in a breach of contract. She's really, really, really mad about the fact that they hired Melissa Nathan for Crisis PR because Stephanie views Melissa as like her rival because she's at a different agency, and Stephanie claims that she also does crisis PR. So why would they go outside of Jones Works when Jones Works could do it too? And that betrayal by Wayfair is what kind of set this all into motion. And she was sending them letters, right? Trying to get them to recommit to her. And on August 21st, Stephanie wrote them a letter. And she said, Justin, Wayfair, you, Tara, and the team are extremely important to us. I received your text a little over an hour ago, but I'm currently unable to make calls on my cell at my current location. I'm so sorry. Matthew Mitchell, one of our senior VPs, whom you've had cited as has been on your day-to-day senior executives on your account, said he just spoke with you and nothing was urgent. It was about the announcement for the new book adaptation. We're working on placing it on the heels of IEWU. So there may have been plans here for a sequel because it says we're working on placing it on the heels of IEWU about the announcement for the new book adaptation. Your below email is inaccurate. As you know, I've been deeply involved in strategy, planning, account management, and high-level PR and media comms, as well as crisis, until you asked me to stop communicating on behalf of Justin and Wayfair on August 9th and allow only Jennifer, Matthew, and team to handle. I've been on set during shoots and have had numerous calls weekly with my team and yours, as well as many with Justin, particularly regarding Blake, often at 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. New York time. And my commitment spans not only the past 8 years, but the last 4 since you joined. This has never been one person, but rather it's been a true team effort with my full support alongside a dedicated team at Jones Works, including a senior vice president, 2 senior publicists, several account executives, and an account coordinator working tirelessly for Justin and Wayfair. On August 9th, you indicated that you wanted only Jennifer Abel and Matthew Mitchell and team to communicate on behalf of Justin and Wayfair. It's my understanding that Blank was retained and began communicating with teams just 4 days later on August 13th, 2024, which demonstrates that I wouldn't have been stepping in mid-trial. I'm assuming they're talking about Melissa Nathan there. I've spoken to Blank, and I also attempted to reach Blank yesterday about a magazine cover for Justin that I've been working on for the last year, as I noted below. I've also made many attempts to contact you through email and phone, but have not received any responses. We have an exclusive contract with you through May of 2025. You contracted a crisis PR firm to handle all crisis-related matters. And if you would now like us to help with that, we absolutely can and will. Please let me know. And please know that our team at JonesWorks is well equipped to manage everything as we always have without missing a beat. So she was trying to frame it like she cared about them, but they were upset with her by this point. And she says, we could have done this. This was it's what we do. We have crisis PR here. And she was really mad about Melissa. Okay. So the motivation in the first complaint basically is that Stephanie could provide Jen Abel's text messages to the New York Times and to Blake in an effort to destroy Jennifer Abel's business for leaving her and taking Wayfair from her, she claims. And then also Blake could then take Justin down. So it was like a 2-for-1 type of thing. I don't know if that's what happened, but that's sort of how the first amended complaint was framed. And there's another part in the same complaint. They talk about how they're having conversations with the talent agency that hosts Ryan and Blake along with Justin, and that the executives at this company, who also happens to be Stephanie Jones's husband, admitted to them that no one pushes back on Lively and Reynolds. And then they say the next day on August 13th, 2024, Abel and Heath had another call with talent agency executives. During this call, one executive told Heath that the agency had spoken to Lively and Reynolds by phone about the overwhelming tide of negative publicity that they had faced over the past few days. Heath clarified that Wayfair, Baldoni, and Heath had no connection to the negative publicity, but they told Heath that Lively and Reynolds had demanded that Wayfair put out a statement accepting blame for the problems during filming, with an express threat that they themselves would attack Wayfair in the press if Wayfair refused. The executives told Heath and Abel that Reynolds and Lively dictated a statement that they required Wayfair to put out, calling It Ends With Us a troubled production and forcing Wayfair to take accountability for the problems in the production. Wayfair, Baldoni, and Heath would have to acknowledge and own their mistakes and own all negativity being aimed at Reynolds and Lively. Abel and Heath asked that the executives clarify what exactly Wayfair, Baldoni, and Heath were being asked to take accountability for. They admitted that Lively and Reynolds were simply upset by how social media had turned against them. Stunningly, the executive admitted that Lively and Reynolds brought the backlash on themselves, but they were beyond reasoning with. He admitted that making constant threats was Lively and Reynolds' well-known modus operandi, and that demands were not based on reality, but on finding someone to blame for their social media crises besides themselves. So they wanted Wayfair to take the fall for the fact that social media was turning against them and that it wasn't about the sexual harassment. It was about that they were getting backlash on social media and that they wanted it to stop. And so that's when they claim they start working with, Stephanie Jones after months, and they say no to them. And then poof, the lawsuit happens. So they were clear and told Sony that they had nothing to do with any of these articles coming out. And Sony execs, they acknowledged that they understood that and that there was no reasoning with Blake and Ryan. So what I pinpoint on there was that they said it was their modus operandi apparatus that basically anytime they get into a sticky situation, they try to blame someone else for their own choices and they use threats to get people to comply. And so I did a search to see like Blake Lively threats. And I found this article from Gawker, and it's from 2014. And it was during the time that Blake had the website Preserve. She had made a blog post that was basically all about praising and drawing inspiration from women of the pre-Civil War time, the antebellum, so slave owners' wives, basically. And that she was using inspiration from slave owners' wives or the Southern antebellum, the Southern belle, for her blog post. And she was reveling and describing how great these women are, right? Naturally, when she did this post, numerous outlets were like, you're literally praising people that were slave owners. It was a very big story. And ultimately, her choices to do stuff like this is why her site went down. But when Gawker made an article about her article. So they wrote an article about her blog post, and they were basically like, their title was Blake Lively's Fall Fashion Inspiration is Slave Owners. Okay. So they make this post, and then a couple of days later, they post another clip that says a link that says, Blake Lively's lawyer wants us to take down this post. And it says, we love to hear from our readers, even when they've got complaints. Yesterday, we heard through a lawyer from actress Blake Lively who demanded that we take down yesterday's post. And the letter, which was sent by her attorneys, said that Gawker had held her in a false and defamatory light. And it said, this firm represents Preserve LLC and Blake Lively. We have been made aware of the publication of your article entitled Blake Lively's Fall Fashion Inspiration is Slave Owners, which is accessible here as is patently clear from the title and content of the piece. At best, it paints Miss Lively and Preserve in a false light. Indeed, it appears to be a deliberate, unprotected, and actionable false attack on Miss Lively's character and on the business of Preserve. Moreover, through malicious, grossly irresponsible, and negligent reporting, Gawker intentionally attempts to deceive and mislead consumers of Preserve's goods and services, including by intentionally rewording Preserve's article to falsely represent Preserve's intent. Gawker's conduct has already caused Preserve and Miss Lively financial and reputational harm. We demand that you remove any access to the piece referenced above, that you cease and desist all further publication of this and any related pieces, and that you mitigate any further damage to our clients that may be caused by the demonstrably false and defamatory articles. We reserve all rights, including the right to sue Gawker Media and its affiliates for injury caused reputationally or otherwise by the statements made in the referenced article. This threat, we reserve the right, is a lot similar to what she sent to Mr. Baldoni about the workplace and the hostility in the workplace. We reserve the right to sue unless you do this. So they send this letter to Gawker because Gawker accurately, I don't like Gawker, by the way, but they had to shut down due to lawsuits. But in this case, they weren't wrong, by the way. Like, she was called out by numerous outlets for this, okay? And then in 2015, when she closed her website, she flat out admitted that she made mistakes and that she definitely could have done things differently. And this fight with Gawker went on for months. And she was trying to claim that it was Gawker's fault that they accurately reported that she took inspiration from slave owners for her fall fashion, which is what she was effectively saying. And in the same article that she did this on the Antebellum, she was also accused of plagiarism. So she was accused of plagiarism, she was accused of racism, and she was accused of, doing a whole thing about slave owners and the beauty of the Southern Belle. This is the same woman that did her thing on a plantation. But it was her own choice to do that, right? It was her own decision to make a post honoring pre-Civil War women that had slaves. And it was her choice to make that post about fashion, right? So there she's trying to blame Gawker for ruining her website, right? The website had been up for like a while at this point. The article had been up for a day, and they were already accusing Gawker of causing reputational harm, false light, and injury to her business. So it makes me wonder how frequently, when things happen with her, does a letter like this get sent to people, right? So if she's been using tactics like this in the past, that could be what Justin's lawsuit alleges, is that they make threats and they will make good on their threats, and they use threats to get their way. And this to me is like, okay, so you're going to sue Gawker for trying to get you out of a choice that you made, just like the executive at the talent agency said they like to point fingers at whoever they can to get out of situations it's beyond reasoning with. They don't care. They just want someone else to take the fall. So if she has a history of doing this and she has a history of making threats, it just makes you wonder, over the years as she's done this, that entitlement of it, right? She feels like she's entitled to do whatever she wants and not have any consequences. And then if she makes a threat and intimidates someone and then they don't do what she wants, and then she has to follow through, right? So in Justin's case, he didn't bend and she followed through. So I wonder how many people she's blamed for other things and threatened to sue to keep them quiet. When you have the kind of money and the power that they do, it would probably be astronomical, the number of people that they've threatened. So, with that said, the fact that the first amended complaint basically says, yeah, and so the talent agency knew that Blake and Ryan are beyond reasoning with, and they don't care about the sexual harassment. In fact, it has nothing to do with the sexual harassment. It's just they don't like that they're getting backlash. And even before she knew that there was a shadow campaign or that she claimed there was a smear campaign, she was already convinced there was one. She told herself there was one. And that was the only reason she was getting backlash. She told her talent agents and Sony execs that the reason why she was getting bad press was because Justin and Jamie were retaliating against her. And apparently, when she did that 17-point thing with them, one of that stipulations was the retaliation. So you agree that you won't retaliate against me. Complaint makes clear that the reason why Justin and Jamie kept having to say yes to her is anytime she would say no, she would then accuse them of retaliating against her, and thus they would threaten a lawsuit. So basically, they had to keep giving in to her because of that clause in that document, whether it was rightful retaliation or not. So they alleged that it put them in a position where they couldn't say no to anything because she was constantly threatening. So narcissists are known to be litigious, by the way, frivolously litigious, and frivolously known to try to blame other people. So knowing this now, and then knowing that Hugh Jackman might be on the hook, that article about Hugh Jackman says that, according to a source, Jackman will be deposed before the trial as Baldoni's legal team wants to get the full scope of Reynolds' conduct during the time that It Ends With Us was filming. Hugh will be deposed if this goes to trial. There is no way that he cannot. And then it says Baldoni's legal team is doing everything they need to do to get a full scope of Ryan's conduct during the time that It Ends With Us was filmed. As Ryan's good friend who starred in the film and was with Blake and Ryan many times in private during the time, his deposition will likely be crucial. They are not going to leave any stone unturned. The source points out that Jackman helped promote It Ends With Us and that Reynolds appeared to include several not so subtle disses about Baldoni in Deadpool and Wolverine, adding that it's highly unlikely that Hugh wasn't aware of this about what Nice Pool was. Not only this, but Hugh helped promote It Ends With Us in the same way that Taylor did when they did their group shot for the cross promo with Deadpool. They continued, the timing of the premieres was also no coincidence. So Jackman supported It Ends With Us attending the movie's New York premiere with his pal Ryan Reynolds. And then they reached out for him for comment, but he said nothing. So because Hugh was on the set when they did the Nice Pool stuff, and then also because Hugh did promotions for It Ends With Us, which is super weird if you think about it, and the jokes they were making in those promotions were so tone deaf. I mean, it's a film about domestic violence, and he's talking about killing the love interest of his best friend's wife. And then Ryan in that same clip is commenting on Brandon's butt and how does he get his butt to look so good. It's a very strange promo. So Hugh might actually have to speak too, which this is where yesterday's video where we were talking about how Ryan's trying to get out of this, he can't. There's no way he can get out of this. Like right now, Blake has all of these projects going on. And yes, Ryan's career is still going too, but we're not going to know the true impact of the career impact to them until later, because right now what's coming out is stuff they had done pre-lawsuit, right? We have to think about like what's it going to look like a year from now? Are they going to be still making films? Will Blake be hired for new work? That's where it's going to start. We're going to start to have to ask questions. Is Blake going to be hired for new films? She's got Another Simple Favor coming out, and she's narrating this National Geographic thing on penguins. But other than that, like what else is coming? It would be stuff she did pre-lawsuit. So the true impact to her brand will only be known down the line. Same with Ryan. So Ryan can't get out of this unscathed as much as he wants to separate himself from her. So Hugh and Taylor are going to be deposed. And this is why Ryan and Blake are freaking out about third parties. They don't want their friends to get dragged into this, even though they dragged their friends into it, which, maybe Hugh could just be a bystander. You know what I mean? Like he might not know anything about it, or he could be a part of it. You don't know until you actually do a deposition. Same with Taylor. But being friends with Blake and Ryan right now, I wouldn't want anyone to be friends with them because anyone they interact with right now could be used in depositions. Like they could even depose Paul Feig from Another Simple Favor and Anna Kendrick if they wanted to. Really anyone. So what are your thoughts about this litigation threat that they use? This history of threatening other people to take accountability for their mistakes in order to own backlash that they rightfully received. It seems like it's a pattern. That's just my opinion. Tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks, guys.